to the next video. In today's video I will show you how to create REST APIs with FastAPI, which is a Python framework, and we will be using Async SQLAchemy, which is a SQLAchemy version 2. So yeah, let's get started. Also, I will be using Postgres database, and I'm using NeonDB. Again, this is not a sponsored video. NeonDB just provides free tier without debit card, credit card registration. That's why I'm using it. But you can use CockroachDB or Elephant SQL, or if you have Postgres installed locally on your desktop, that's fine as well. So let's get started. So first I'll show you the output. So here I have a post request where I can make create one user. So I'll just create this user. So here you can see the user was created, email, password, and I have the ID. So it takes only the email and password. ID is automatically generated because that is the primary key. Next, I want to get list of all the users, so I can just do a get request, and here you can see I have only one user. Next, if I want to get a particular user, I know there is a user with user ID 3, so I just append the user ID at the URL and I'll do a get request, and here you can see you can get a JSON object. And if you want to patch, I know again it is user ID 3, and I will just update the email ID to XYZ, and I'll just click on send, and here you can see the ID was updated. If I again go back to this get request, here you can see xyz@gmail.com, and if you want to delete it, you can just pass the user ID again. I'll delete it, and if I try to do a get request, here you can see I am getting an empty array. So yeah, let's see how to do this. First, make sure you have at least Python 3.6 or above installed, because that is what is required by FastAPI. Next, just create a directory of for your project. I have named it as first, but you can name it whatever you want. Then cd to first inside your terminal, and here I have created a file called main.py. Then also create another file called requirements.txt. So this touch command is basically like create this file. So this create this file using the terminal. If you don't want to create this file using terminal, create it manually inside VS Code or whatever ID you use. Then we require this virtual environment, so that's why I have created this. Now to activate, once you click on this, like you will have to run this command inside your terminal. Once you do that, you will have to do this, run this command. So this will make sure you are inside the virtual environment. Then if you want to update your pip list, you can do that. This is like optional steps, you don't really have to do it. And then you can just do pip install FastAPI. So a better way to what you could do is just do this. Go to your requirements.txt and just add FastAPI. Okay, whatever is the latest version, or you can refer the past FastAPI documentation on how to install it via pip, or you can just write it inside your requirements.txt. And you will also need this uvcon. Make sure you also add this. Okay, once you add this, just run pip install -r requirements.txt. Don't worry about all this other dependency, I'll get back to this. Just run this, it will install FastAPI and uvcon for you. Then what you will have to do is that we are using async version of SQLAchemy, so you will have to run this command. Now be careful with this, like for some people, like as you can see I have added this single quotes. Like so for some people might try to do like this. It might work for you, might not. Like for my M1 Mac it wasn't working for me, that's why I had to add this single quote. So just run this command. Then you will have to run pip install async pg, because I'm using Postgres, and then you can do pip freeze this greater than symbol requirements.txt, and once you go there, automatically all these dependencies are added for you. All right, next what I'm doing is that I'm importing FastAPI, uvcon, CORS middleware, as well as my user API, which I have created inside this API folder, user-API. I'll come back to that later on. Here I have just created our FastAPI. I have given it some title, description, version, and docs URL as well. The reason why I have given is this: if you try to go to your default URL, which is 127.0.0.1:8000, you will get a Swagger documentation automatically. That's why I have done this. Then the origins from where I am trying to access is this. Again, if you want, you can keep it, otherwise this is mostly because of coarse middleware. Like I want to, so that the web app, if you are trying to access it via web app, it should not have this coarse issue. That's why I have done this step as well as this. Okay, then I have included our user API router because I have only one router. If you have multiple routers, you will have to write more of this router as well. And here I have just added this boilerplate of code where I am listening on port 8000 and host is this. And to run your app, don't try to run it now, but just to start your server, you will have to run, you will have to fire this command inside your terminal. Okay, next what you will have to do is you will have to go to your Postgres database and you will have to run that command of create table name, users ID. You can keep it as primary key, email and password I have kept it as varchar or varchar, however you pronounce it. So yeah, keep it simple. Just create a table inside your Postgres database. Next, it is possible to create a database using this as well. Like you can call this create underscore db.py and you can write this bit of code, but make sure you create this models as well, which I will show you in a bit how our model user look like. Just on comment this code and you can just fire this command from your terminal. But before that, you will have to create your user model, as well as you will also need to initialize your database. So I'll show you that in a bit. So this is your db, just create this db.py file. Okay, and here we are including create async engine as well as declarative base. So here you can pass your Postgres database URL, but be careful, like you will have to pass something like this Postgres SQL plus async pg. Okay, don't forget this. Then this could be a username, password, then your database domain. Okay, and also at the very end, so the I think username, password, this is your database, I think this is database name, this is the domain I mean. And here make sure if you are using SSL mode, don't write SSL mode equal to require. This mode is not necessary, otherwise again you will face issue. Just it should be something like SSL equal to require. And echo I have kept it as true, and here I have created this declarative base. Okay, next you can go to models.py and here you can see I am importing our base which we have defined inside db.py, as well as mapped and mapped column. And here I have created a user model. Table name is users, ID I have kept it as primary key, email is varchar, nullable false, same for password. And here I have just added this bit of code for logging purposes. Okay, now if you want to create this database, if you don't want to manually write all those SQL queries like create table name, you can just on comment this and fire this command from your terminal. But I really don't like this. I think it's better to create your table via SQL queries, because that's what most people use in production purposes. But I wanted it to show it to you guys in case if you don't know SQL. Okay, so I have shown you this, I have shown you main, I have shown you model. Then I will go to schemas.py. so here this is basically like kind of like JSON serialization, deserialization. That's what we are doing over here. So I am importing from pydantic, I am importing base model as config.dict, and here inside I have defined our users model. Again, ID is of type int, email and password are of type string, and here I have just defined our config.dict from attributes equal to true. Similarly for user creation as well, we will just take an email and password. That's what I have done over here. Okay, so basically this is for JSON serialization and deserialization. Okay, now coming back to our crud_py. So here you can see I have imported model, I have imported async session maker, async session, as well as a select statement as well. And I have defined a class called crud. So this is for getting all the users, so it will take self async session. Okay, so these two are mandatory for all these things. So here you can see everyone takes that, but for register we also need the user, which will have the email and password. For get user ID we require the user ID, right? For updating a user we again require the particular user. For deleting a user we require the user ID. So that's what I have done. Now again, this part again will be common for everything. Like this is like boilerplate code from SQLAchemy, async SQLAchemy. So that's why, as you can see, I have written it everywhere. Next we have to define this select, which is kind of like select star from this particular table, right? So that's what this select does, and we are selecting from the users table. Then once we get the statement, we have to write session dot execute. So you will have to mostly write this session dot execute, as you can see over here, or session dot add or session dot commit, something like that related to session. You will have to do stuff. Then we are just returning all the users back to the to whoever is calling this API. Okay, same for register. We are creating our user, then we are calling session dot add, which will automatically add our user to our database, and then we are calling session dot commit, and then we are returning our created user. Similarly, for getting user by ID, we are first selecting all the user, and we are only filtering it with whichever ID the user has passed to us. Then we are again calling session dot execute our statement, and we are returning only the first one, whichever is present. Next, again we are doing the same thing over here, filtering. Then we are executing the result statement. We are getting the user back. We are updating it with whatever the user has sent to us, the email and password, and then we are calling session dot commit and returning the user. And for delete as well, same thing. We are creating a statement. We are filtering the user, whichever the user ID has been passed. Then we are getting the result back. We are calling session dot execute, and here inside user we are calling results dot scalar dot one. So we are getting the first user. Then we are calling session dot delete user, and then we are doing session dot commit, and we are returning the user back. Now to create the REST API endpoints, go to you create an API folder. Inside that you create a folder file called user underscore API.py, and here I have imported FastAPI, I have imported CRUD, I have imported engine, user model, user create model, then users from models. I have imported list, HTTP status, as well as a sync session maker. So I'm first initializing our router using FastAPI.API router. I have also initialized our session, and I have also initialized our CRUD class, which and assign it to our DB variable. So here this is for getting all the users and the responses of user list of user models. So here we are just calling the get all method, which we have defined it inside CRUD.py. Okay, and just returning it back. Similarly, for creating a user as well, once we get the user create model, we are creating the user by its email as well as by its password, and then calling the register method, which is defined inside CRUD.py. Similarly, for getting the specific user, we are passing the user ID over here, and we are just passing it to our get user by ID method, the user ID. Similarly, for patching the user or updating the user, we are getting the user ID, and here as you can see, I'm just calling the update user method and passing the user ID as well as the data which the user has provided for updating. And for deleting the user, again same thing, we are passing the user ID, so we are passing it to our user ID and just calling the delete user method and returning the user back. So yeah, now if you want to start your server, you can just write something like this, and you can hit those API endpoints. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Bye.